There is a question many women are quietly carrying, but they rarely say out loud. You still love God, you still believe, you still care deeply about your faith, and yet God feels distant. Your faith feels quieter than it used to. Connection feels harder to access. Joy feels muted, and you're not sure why. So you just keep showing up, you keep doing what you've always done, and you wonder on the inside that question, what happened? If that question has really crossed your mind, I want to let you know you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not failing. In this video, what we're going to gently explore is why faith can feel distant even when your love for God hasn't changed. The difference between loving God and feeling engaged with the faith practices that you have, and how faith can shift from lived relationship to maintenance mode. And even why spiritual numbness is not a sign of weak faith. And also how this season may actually be inviting you into a deeper, more aligned way of walking with God. Because feeling distant doesn't mean that you've lost faith. And it doesn't mean that God has moved away. Sometimes it means something inside your faith is ready to be renewed. Hey there, wise woman. This is Deneen TV, your faith growth and work alignment strategist, helping driven Christian women, professionals, and business owners design faith growth rhythms and practices that actually fit their lives without the pressure of doing more, so that they can lead with purpose, live out their mission, and create lasting influence for God in work and in life. So, this might be where you are when your love for God is still there, but the connection just feels different. Are you there? This is where many women really begin to get confused and even start to feel, ashamed, because I know you do love God. You haven't turned away, you haven't stopped believing, as I said, and you haven't stopped caring. So why does your faith feel, distant? Here is what most people actually don't realize. Love for God and engagement with faith practices are actually not the same thing. You can really love God deeply while feeling disconnected from the way that you've been taught to grow spiritually. And when those two things, they kind of get tangled together, then what you may often assume is, if I loved God more, I wouldn't feel this way. But that is not the truth. Over time, faith can slowly just shift from something totally alive to something maintained. You know what to do. You know what's expected of you. You know the rhythms that you've followed for years. So you continue to do them. But instead of bringing life to you, they begin to just feel like a routine, a ritual. Instead of the connection that you want, they just feel something mechanical to do. Instead of renewing you, they begin to just feel repetitive. And this doesn't happen because your faith is weak. It happens because maintenance mode is not the same as transformation mode. And sometimes that shift happens when life changes and in ways that we didn't expect. I remember a season when my faith, it felt very different. It was the first year after my MS diagnosis. I had walked with God for a really long time. In fact, I've been in church my whole life, just left for a little bit, but came back. And I saw myself as really strong in my faith. I was steady. I was grounded. But this season in my life totally shook me. God, he didn't feel near. I felt like somewhere he was out there behind some kind of thick clouds. And no matter how hard I searched, I couldn't seem to find him. I couldn't do the things that I had always done in order to connect to him. The routines that once had really anchored me, they just felt so out of reach. And that was disorienting for me. And I began to feel like I could never get back. So I started with something very small. The only thing I did to begin was each morning, I thanked God when I woke up that I could actually move my body, that I could actually get out of bed, that I could take care of my family. So gratitude actually became the place where I started. And slowly, in that quiet space, I began reaching for him in new ways. Not through performance, not through any pressure, but only through his word. And that season, it did not mean that God had moved away from me. In that season, it was where he was inviting me to seek him more deeply than I had ever done before. And what I learned during that season was this, that maintenance preserves what exists, but transformation brings growth and renewal. And if nothing is shifting or stretching or reconnecting to real life, faith can then become and feel very flat, even when your love for God is strong and remains strong. One of the most painful parts of this season is the emotional quiet. I've had women tell me, I don't feel what I used to feel. Actually, I feel numb during worship. Or they may say, I go through the motions. I look good on the outside. Or they might say, I feel guilty even admitting that these things are happening inside of me. So let me say something very clearly. Flat doesn't mean faithless. Did you hear me? Just because your faith feels flat, it does not mean that you are faithless. Emotional quiet does not mean spiritual failure. It often signals a few things. It signals exhaustion, misalignment, or growth that is ready to take on a new form. There are seasons when faith deepens, not through emotional intensity, but through honest realignment. This stage is disorienting. Like I said, I was disoriented. It's disorienting because nothing looks wrong from the outside. You still believe, you still show up, you still pray, you still care, but inside something feels different. And because you cannot point to the clear problem, you may assume that the problem is just you, but it isn't. The season often emerges when a few things are happening. One, the way that you've practiced your faith really no longer fits your season of life. Or between leadership or illness or burnout or other responsibilities that have changed your capacity. It also can emerge when you've outgrown one growth model, but haven't discovered what the next one is in your faith life. It also can emerge when your faith just needs integration with your real life instead of having silos or separations in it. That's not regression. It's transition. If your faith feels flat, the solution is not to try harder, because trying harder inside a misaligned system only increases the pressure that you're going to put on yourself. So the better question becomes, am I maintaining my faith or experiencing it? So maintenance says, well, I just keep doing what I've always been doing. Transformation says, how is God inviting me to grow now? Maintenance preserves your habits. Transformation renews your connection with Him. Maintenance repeats those routines. Transformation realigns your heart. And many women discover that what feels like spiritual stagnation is actually an invitation into a deeper, more integrated faith. Living faith reconnects your relationship with God to your real life. So it integrates faith into your work, your leadership, your responsibilities, your relationships, even those daily decisions. It allows growth to fit your design and your season, not fight against them. Because faith was never meant to be something you just maintain from a distance. I'm doing all of the stuff. No, it is meant to be lived. If your faith feels flat, it does not mean that something is broken inside of you. It means something is ready to be renewed. It may mean you've been faithful, but you are ready for alignment. It may mean God is inviting you to a deeper way of walking with Him. Did you hear that? Without guilt, without pressure, without pretending. How does God want us to approach Him? With honesty, with clarity, with renewed connection. So let me ask you this. Where have you been maintaining faith when your heart is really longing to experience it again? I'd really love to connect with you in the comments below. If you want to move from maintaining your faith to experiencing again, let's get clarity. I've got a clarity call where we can talk about where you are, what's happening inside of you, what is feeling flat or distant for you, and what may be ready to shift in you. I'll also be teaching this exact framework on my next live workshop for those who want to explore this more deeply. I'm inviting you to join me. All of that is down below in the description. You can get on that call with me, or you can register for the next live workshop. I would love to have you there because you know what? You are not faithless. You may simply be ready for renewal. This is Deneen TV. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, be filled to overflowing.